Here we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of Inside the Singer's Voice. This is Jeremiah Abiah, and I am so excited to have you all here today. I have my special guest, uh, Henry Santos, my dear friend and megastar Latin singer of his own projects as well as the group Aventura. So I wanted to invite him today to talk about his process, his development, his career as a singer, and all the things that have made him the legend that he is, and how he has maintained his instrument over the last 20 years, I would say, as a singer. Is that about right, Henry?
Yes.
Yeah,
Hi.
awesome. Welcome.
Hi everyone. Yes, it's been a journey. It's been fantastic, especially right after I met you, I must say.
Hmm.
Because and I usually, every time I speak about my singing career, I usually make this example, which is the same I told you before, as riding a motorcycle without having a license, which happened to me. I had been riding my motorcycle probably for like 2 years before I decided to finally get my class. I took a class, and I didn't realize how many details and things and I was missing out on. So the same thing happened to me when I met you. I had been singing for probably about 13 years. And those little details that I learned in the classes that I took with you made a world of a difference. For me, it changed completely my whole life, um, my presence on stage, I have so much fun controlling this voice in a way that I didn't know how to do that before.
Right.
So it was just, I would get on stage, I would sing for like about an hour. Our shows would go for probably like 2 3 hours, but around an hour and a half I was already struggling
Okay.
because I wasn't breathing correctly. I was doing all these little details that I learned with you. So now I can go on for probably like 4 or 5 hours on a concert, which we
Wow.
have done. We have done that before.
So
We
tell me,
did.
let's start from the
Y-
beginning. As a
yes.
singer, what was the beginning of your career? What was the process of you becoming a singer? Let's start there.
So when I was 8 9 years old,
Hmm.
I um I entered the church choir in the Dominican Republic. I was born and raised in DR until I was 13. That's when I moved to the States,
Hmm.
and I met my cousin, Romeo, which is today also is like one of the biggest stars in the Latin industry.
That's right.
We decided to go to the church choir again, but for a separate reason. For we wanted to get the girls.
Of
That
course.
was it. There was no idea. There was no reason that we wanted to be singers. That we wanted to get into the music. No, we wanted to get the girls and be on a stage in at church where every girl could see us. So the church choir was like the perfect the perfect setup for us. But the director realized that we had special voices. He didn't know how to describe it, but he was like, every single time everybody sings, I hear two particular voices which stand out, which is yours and yours, and you're my cousin and me. And we said, wow, that's a big compliment. We that and then right after that we started taking it a little serious, and we wanted to create a group,
Hmm.
like a band,
Right.
and we started writing songs. But we didn't want to write these songs so we can sing it, but for the bachateros, the real stars of the moment, we
Right.
wanted to give them the songs.
Hmm.
Um, but in that process, we would be at the corners in 157 in Girard in the Bronx with
Hmm.
our friends, and we would show them our songs that we would give to the bachateros, and they said, why don't you guys sing it? Because it sounds so good on you.
Right.
We had no control. We just did everything because of a feeling. We felt that, certain songs should be sang this way, but we didn't know how.
Right.
And that went on really for like about 12 years.
Wow.
we just
Wow.
started
So
we
it
just
was,
started singing.
so it's completely natural. So all the singing you were doing was natural. When you went to the choir, did they give you any advice about your voice when you first started?
No, because it wasn't a choir. It wasn't like a serious choir. It was just
Hmm.
more of, singing the songs for the church, so that every
Yeah.
Sunday there's like a specific song and a whole bunch of beautiful voices will sing it together. There was no direction. We
Okay.
never took, we never took, not even school. Like I never took singing classes or well, probably one music class that I remember, and it was with the little flute thing, the
Uh-huh.
recorder, I think.
Uh-huh. Recorder. Hmm.
That's
So,
it. That's
so tell
that's all
me.
my experience.
So you guys get all this attention. People start paying attention, and you decide we're going to form a band. We fast forward, and you guys start touring, right? You start having these opportunities to tour.
Yes.
When did you realize that, okay, I'm singing, but something is missing?
Let me tell you, we as since we didn't think we were pros yet. We at first we started doing this because it was fun, because it would give us time to travel to different places. It was more like a hobby to us, right? Until our music started getting traction, like girls started looking for us. We started making shows, but then a friend of mine, I do remember, did tell me, listen, you guys have so much potential, but you are not taking it as serious as the rest of the world is.
Right.
I think it's time. I remember this friend told me that, especially, he said, you should look into controlling your voice because you scream too much.
Wow.
You
Wow.
know, you don't sing at times. You scream, and at the end of the concert, which was probably like, it used to be at that time, it would be probably 40 minutes, like the whole two sets we would do. I would end up with no voice.
Right.
And
Okay.
and and he said, you should start looking into some type of training or something. And at that moment, I really didn't um listen to my friend. I just
Hmm.
continued to go on and on and on
Uh-huh.
until Aventura decides to take a break in 2001, and I start doing my own solo things.
Uh-huh.
And I realized, if I had a break in Aventura because I have my cousin who was the lead singer. I was the second voice, and I would sing and I do all these choruses. However, the whole responsibility now is falling on me.
Yeah.
So I would have to do a 2-hour show, singing, speaking. I need to find out how to control my voice. This is when I really understood that I needed to do that. And this is when I was introduced to you, my friend.
Good. So let's talk about it.
Yes.
So tell me, is when you think about singing, what is your process to, for instance, when you're going to do a concert, what is your regimen before a concert?
Hmm.
What do you do before a concert?
Um, with my whole experience, I realized that warming up is so important.
Yes.
It is. I didn't think before it was as important. There were times, as a matter of fact, that I would go directly into singing prior to meeting you, and the voice. It was easy for me because this I would start with songs that didn't require for me to go that high.
Mm-hmm.
So in the process, it's like I would warm up, but that happened because I wasn't the lead singer. I did
Right.
have time to sort of play with it. But when I started doing my own thing, at that moment, I already had the experience of warming up with you. So I decided to do that every day. I decided also not just to do it prior to singing, but to have me my 20 minutes of exercising my voice
Okay.
every day, every
Right.
day
So you made a
with
habit. So you made a
yes,
habit of practice. So what
yes.
kind of, so for instance, if you had a show tomorrow or this afternoon, what kind of warm-ups would you do?
I have um I have a piano
Uh-huh.
warm up
Uh-huh.
that I decided that I found online, and I downloaded it into my phone. So whenever the best times I have is when I go to the supermarket, because it takes me probably like 20 minutes to go, 20 minutes to come back,
Uh-huh.
and that's when I do it. It's like
So
I have so much fun because like when I'm with my wife and my son, like I just listen to like kids music,
correct.
because we need to entertain
That's right.
him or my wife.
Yeah.
But when I'm by myself, I'm constantly it I realize my voice is my instrument.
That's right.
Is exactly, and not just my voice, but the rest of my body also, in
Yes.
which I it was such a big change, because not only did I change my techniques in breathing, I changed my eating habits. I
Hmm.
changed my sleeping pattern habits, because I realized everything is together.
That's right.
Everything
Your
works
body is
together.
the instrument. That's correct. So let me
Exact.
ask you,
Yes.
since you talked about breathing, how do you breathe as a singer? What's your process of breathing as a singer?
It's it's weird, because how do I explain it? After I learned the high you get of in your exercises. Remember that we would go as high as I could because of the tones, but then I would feel like a little dizzy,
A little
because so
lightheaded?
much,
Uh-huh.
a little lightheaded, because all the oxygen that will go into my, that felt so good. I don't
Uh-huh.
I don't know if that
Uh-huh.
is, but after that I started realizing that the better and the more control one has while breathing, the better the notes. You can control the notes,
So you're talking
includes,
about, so what you're talking about is what we call the onset, right? So when you inhale very calmly, then when you
yes,
release, your voice is very calm, which means that you can do anything with your voice.
yes, there's no straining, and especially because like one of my key things in my music and my voice is the falsettos. Like I'm known to do falsettos to the point that the people think it's a girl singing,
Mm-hmm.
like most of the time, and that to me that's something that's always been natural. But going from the chest voice all the way to the head voice, getting the like to the falsettos, and doing smoothly, is something that I never thought I would be able to do. But with all these exercises and everything that I learned with you, I realized that breathing is key. You
It's
need to
number one.
know how to is number one. You need to
Number one.
know how to breathe to control everything,
So let me ask
absolutely
you this.
everything.
Where does your voice come from?
The down here,
Are
the
you sure?
what you call it? Huh?
Are you talking about the diaphragm?
Yes, no, yes.
I don't know. You tell me.
I feel when I get on my breathing, my breathing correctly, the voice just flows. It
Yeah.
flows all throughout,
So
and
where's
I'm
the air
able
coming from?
from the lungs.
Yeah, from the lungs.
Of course.
So the reason why
Yeah.
I ask you this is because, in our world, people talk about the diaphragm a lot, but the
Hmm.
diaphragm is a muscle, right?
Yes.
And so the
Hmm.
question is, when you were singing in the past and you would get fatigued or you would get hoarse, were you singing from your throat, right? And
Yes.
what were you really using here?
The
Muscle,
larynx, no?
the
The
muscle,
muscles from here. Yeah,
right?
the ones that close.
Yeah,
They close when you strain them. Yes, like
yeah,
that was my biggest thing.
yeah.
And if if I get unconscious sometimes, not on concerts, but like say like I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing. Um, I sometimes if I forget, I have my son here like knocking on my door. I'm sorry.
No, no problem.
If I'm not paying attention, I just go back mentally to those exercises.
Uh-huh.
It's like a natural click now. But
Uh-huh.
before it was scary. It was scary because I wouldn't know how to control my muscles in like anywhere, like the breathing muscles, like here. So I would use them too much and I'll
Okay.
strain them too much. And I would try to do chords that didn't necessarily come from this area, but like more breathier tones. And I would try to control them with my muscles from here.
Right.
Ah! And
Right, right.
I would struggle most of the time.
So
And
when
then,
you're so when you're inhaling, the
yes,
idea is to relax the throat, right? So that you feel
yes,
nothing in the throat. That's really the goal,
yes.
right?
The
So
more relaxed you are. It's It's like, and something that was key when you taught me, smile. You smile when you sing, and that, like
so what is that smile
that.
doing for you though? What is that smile doing for you? What do you feel?
It it helps me. It helps me relax. It because it's not just a smile. It's like a feeling. You know what I'm saying? It's like a feeling that I get that I'm happy that I'm singing. It's a connection. I don't know. It's like a vibe
I
that
like when
connects
you said
everything.
it's a feeling because I think a lot of
Yeah,
times singers listen to themselves too much and they're not
yeah,
paying attention to the feeling of freedom of the sound, right? But the voice
yes,
isn't free if you don't inhale in a free way. If you don't connect in a relaxed way, then everything
yeah,
is tense, right? And then you start to use muscles to create the sound. So you're saying
yes.
something really powerful. I think it's
Oh
important
yeah,
that singers hear the idea that you actually should be feeling your voice and not
oh yeah,
necessarily listening to your.
yeah. And I think that's because we as human beings we become very critical and judgmental of our own voices. And
Absolutely.
it's funny because I had this conversation the other day with my wife, which is she's not a singer
Hmm.
whatsoever, but she's like, "Oh my god, I sound so weird," on a recording.
Right.
And I tell her, "No, you don't," because it's like she's just not used to listen to herself. And but me that I listen to her, I'm like, you're able to do certain tones that she naturally does, right? And she's not a singer, but she has this little thing of singing in octaves. What you call that in English? Octaves.
Octaves, yeah.
Uh, Octaves,
Mhm.
right? Like if I'm singing naturally here, la 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 la, she's la 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 la,
Yeah, the
naturally,
octave. Yeah, yeah.
but she doesn't like her voice, and I'm like, you're so close. If you knew the techniques, you're
Right.
so close to being a singer because you
Wow.
naturally are doing something that takes years for certain singers to learn, which is to find that other tone to do the melody correctly you
Absolutely.
know
So let me ask
but
you this. So when you are performing or you have a performance, the day of a performance or a week before, whatever the case would be, what are things that you avoid as a singer? Are there things that cause you problems? Like, for instance, a lot of singers are sensitive to AC. Do you stay away from AC?
I do and ice
Ice.
and ice
What can
ice
ice do to
it's
your
it's no
voice?
no for me. It yeah, it would like tighten.
Sure.
It
Sure.
would tighten like my muscles and my here. Like
Right.
that's something that it not even cold water. Like I don't even do cold water. That's why I learned sometimes to just drink like water that's temperature,
Room
like
temperature.
room temperature
Yeah.
water.
Yeah.
To me, prior to this, not knowing, I would drink like a little bit of alcohol, and and I would use it as an excuse for two things. It will calm me down,
Hmm.
and the second thing is that I would use that as a warm up. Supposedly, I
Mm.
thought that without me knowing, I thought that would help, and I realized that that actually alcohol is so bad for you.
Yes.
Like
We're doing the
around.
same thing as the ice. It's constricting, right?
Yes, yes, it
Yeah.
will constrict it. And I started drinking some tea, but then I
Uh-huh.
realized that the clearer my voice was with no substances, just like room temperature water, it actually worked more naturally for
I
me.
love that.
You know,
I
that
love
is
that.
something that I started doing, and I realized, wow, I have more control after I started drinking water rather than alcohol or even tea.
Yeah, so again, a lot of times singers pick up habits or information along the
Yeah,
line, thinking that it's going to help them. It actually hurts them. People
yeah,
drinking hot tea all the time. I think tea is good if you have a cold, maybe, because the
yeah.
cold then it clears something away. But nothing works better for the voice than water,
Water,
especially
yes.
room temperature
And
water.
I attest to that because it actually, it did help me. And this is, just something that I picked up and learned, along the way.
So when you sing, do you breathe through your nose or your mouth?
Let me see. I do a little bit of both. I guess it depends on the tone and the song that I'm singing.
Uh huh.
Because if it's very mellow and I just if it's like a low volume song that I need to start and then start picking up, but I breathe mostly through my through my mouth.
Okay. So
Like
let
I
me
do
ask
a
you
lot
this.
of mouth breathing, and I also obviously I also use my nose, but I do certain certain breathing from my mouth. Yes.
Okay.
So
And so when you
I'm not sure
inhale,
if that's a good exercise yet, but
I think every singer, we all have to kind of monitor ourselves and say, well, what works for me, what doesn't. As I've said in other interviews, and as I work with a lot of singers, is that some singers, they can drink alcohol and still sing so amazingly, and then
and
some of us
smoke
can't. Yeah,
is
and smoke, but some of us
yeah,
can't. Right? So we
yes.
have to kind of monitor ourselves and say, okay, these things work for me and these things don't, and that's okay. Nothing is, it's not bad. It just is what works for you.
And
I
it depends on the mood of the song that I'm singing also. Because if
okay.
it's a happy, that
Yeah.
you need to like scream a little or get higher. It depends on the moment of the song also,
Uh-huh.
that I get the technique of the breathing that I'm talking about.
Uh-huh.
Like in certain very romantic slow songs,
Uh-huh.
I obviously breathe through my nose, but then the screaming part when I get higher and it's hyper,
Uh-huh.
then I breathe. I control through my mouth a lot of things. That
So
just works for
tell
me.
me, who are your vocal influences from either from when you were young or now or whatever part of your life? Who are the people who influenced you as a singer?
I like a lot of voices, and this is something I don't know if I don't know how it's gonna come out, but it's the first time that actually I get this question. But I admire the colors on very different types of music and singers. For example, like I admire voices like Juan Gabriel,
Uh-huh.
the late Juan Gabriel.
Uh-huh.
I adored his voice. I adored the voice of Jose Jose, who also passed away.
Okay, I don't know him.
Um, you don't know Jose
I don't
Jose?
know Jose. No.
You should.
I will look into
He,
it
I
right
will,
away.
I will send you a link of an album that I think is the greatest albums of. He sings in bolero.
Oh,
He
he's a
sings in
bolero singer.
bolero.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah, he was more like a pop Mexican singer from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. But he did like a three-part album of boleros just on
Uh-huh.
his songs,
Okay.
and his voice there is just amazing. Um, Jose Jose, Juan Gabriel, Alejandro Sanz. You
Oh
know
yes.
Alejandro Sanz?
Yes.
That guy. And each instrument, I'm gonna call their voices, has something that I just admire. I don't see that I have followed certain people. as as a way to, like, compare my voice with.
Uh-huh.
Like, I actually think that my voice grew out of the feeling that my genre had, like the bachata, you
Yes.
know. And
Yes.
for some reason, I when I learn how to control my voice and learn the colors of my voice,
Mm-hmm.
um I really don't never saw like a comparison to any other person. So I don't know if I'm explaining myself correctly,
No, it's great.
but but it's like I don't have a comparison. Like, I grew up admiring certain people but not imitating them.
Right.
You
Right.
you understand?
Right. So
Like,
what
if
did you
they're
find?
Mhm.
What did you find in Jose and Alejandro Sanz, for instance? What are the things about their voices that
Oh my
attract
God.
you? Like from a
It
technical perspective, what do you
From a
hear
technical
in their voices that make you say, those are things that I aspire to do?
a lament. There is a cry in their voice. There is a
Mhm.
tear in
Ah,
their voice that you just don't find it. It's a certain thing. I have seen a whole bunch of singers, just as well as various musicians who have all the technique in the world, all the
mhm.
technique in the world, and they will play every note there is. But then there are other artists, which is like these ones that I just mentioned, that they have a particular set of feelings in their voice,
Mhm.
which just captivate me, which is I can listen to their voice all day, all day. That little cry at a certain specific moment. Um, there's a lady called, I think her name is Sia, a
Okay.
singer.
Okay.
Sia, do you
Oh,
know
Sia.
Sia,
Yes.
the singer?
Sia. Yes, I know Sia very
Okay, all
well.
right.
Yep.
She has this little thing that she does, that she sort of like breaks her voice on high
Mm-hmm.
notes.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that is just magical. I'm like, I wish
Now,
that was done more often.
but the
Mhm.
question is, if you do that too often, do you think that's going to cause a problem in the voice?
If I do what too
If
often,
you
if
break or do the cracking of the voice for the emotional landscape of the singing, do you think that that would cause a problem in the voice after a period of time?
um if she is able to control it, if she
Uh-huh.
knows what she's doing, if
Uh-huh.
she knows when to do it and how to do it and control it to a point that would not affect her, then
Mm-hmm.
in which that's what I think that she does. I
Uh-huh.
think she knows when to do it, and I don't think it's gonna affect her voice because she's in control of her voice. But if it happens at a moment that she's not, controlling it, then obviously it's gonna break their voice. It's the same thing as these guys, the singers for heavy metal.
Uh-huh.
That they do the
Yeah, yeah.
just doing that right now messed up my voice. And
Yeah.
I doing this little tiny example, but
Yes.
they go for hours
Yeah.
singing
Yeah.
that type of, and
It's
it doesn't
technique.
affect them,
It's technique.
huh?
It's
It's
technique.
it's a technique, yes.
So let me ask you this. You are an emotional singer. You love, boleros and those kinds of things. That kind of singing, because it's emotional, do you find yourself on stage sometimes where you can get carried away with the emotion? And if that does happen, does that create some kind of tension for your voice that you have to catch yourself and say, hey, don't go too far because this will take my voice somewhere? Would you say that happens sometimes?
It happened twice, and
Okay.
not necessarily because, sorry,
No
because
problem.
of the emotionality of the song itself, but because something happened in this exact moment. For example, I was in a Make-A-Wish. The Make-A-Wish Foundation brought about five little girls to meet us, and I say us because I was still at Aventura.
Mhm.
But there was one specific girl. She was like 5 or 6 that she wanted to meet me. So I went and I invited her over, and I sat her right next to the stage. And when I was singing my song, which is called Princesita, My Little Princess,
Uh-huh.
which has nothing really to do with the situation, but it sort of became the situation when I invited her over to sing that particular song. And then I said in the song, ya lo sé, han venido difamando que no soy quien te ama y el que te realizará tus sueños, which means I know that I am not the guy that people tell you that's gonna love you forever, um, and that is gonna make your dreams come true. At the moment, her dream was to meet me, and when
Mm-hmm.
I said that line, like my voice just cringed.
Yeah.
I wanted to continue to sing, but I started crying.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I started crying, and I wanted to continue, and I just couldn't. I went, oh God.
Yeah.
The whole stadium started crying with me. My
Yeah.
band members, everyone, the whole moment became such a emotional moment that I just couldn't control my voice.
Sure. Sure.
I couldn't control it whatsoever. But then I had to calm down, after like
Yes.
probably like 3 minutes. I just like everybody just continued singing for me. And then I
Mm-hmm.
was able, when I was already calm, I was able to come back and finish the rest of the song.
So that comes back to the idea that you talked about at the beginning of how your voice is connected to your body, right?
Yes.
So if your
Yes.
emotions are some way, the voice is affected, right? If you're feeling tired, your voice is affected. If you
Oh,
drink
yeah.
the wrong things, your voice is affected. So all of these factors contribute to whether you're going to sing well or not.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes,
Let
it
me ask
does.
you this. What you are an artist of a certain position and career. I'm sure people come to you for advice, or if they get a chance to meet you, aspiring singers ask you for advice. What is the one thing that every singer should know?
What is the one thing that every singer should know? Their voice.
Mm.
They
Hmm.
should know their voice. They
Hmm.
should know what they should be able to do with their voice, when, how, and control it. If you are a singer, and look, I have many friends in which I have made in the past probably 2 3 years, just because there is um a show on TV on Telemundo which is called the Voice.
Uh-huh.
You know the song
La
La
voz.
Voz, La
Mhm.
Voz. And I saw a few of them that went to the show, and I just fell in love with their voice. And I reached out to them, and I became friends with them. And
Wonderful.
I just became friends with them because I realized something. I reached out first of all because one of the guys, for example, his name is Ronnie Mercedes. He actually said a line that had nothing to do with music. It was just like a personal thing that he said, and everybody was just, admiring his line. And it touched me too. And I just wrote to him, and I told him, "Listen, that was a beautiful line you said. It wasn't even a singing line." And
Uh-huh.
he answered back, "You, you are my idol. I
Wow.
love what you do. This is and a third." And I was like, "No way, this kid with I just followed through, and I just became his friend, with
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And this kid has so much talent, but just like him, there's a whole bunch of singers that are amazing. There are amazing singers,
Hmm.
that they have such control.
Hmm.
And in this day and age, I this is something that I tell them. I'm like, don't just become a singer. In this industry nowadays, you have to become more than a singer. You have to become um, like half of your management. You need to know your as well as your voice. You need to know the business. So
That's
it's like
correct.
a combination. It's like a combination of things. Nowadays, the industry has changed so much, and I think that's just something that I will continue to tell singers. Not don't just first of all know your voice, but then also educate yourself in the music industry so that
So,
you can really be successful.
so what you're doing is a form of mentorship, right? You may not call
Yes.
it yourself a mentor, but you're mentoring other singers. Were there people along your journey who also mentored you?
Oh no.
No.
Oh
Okay.
no, no whatsoever. And but let me tell you, because it was tough love, and I'll explain why. There was a moment that the person that we admired, and I say we because my cousin and I, we grew up together
Right.
writing songs, especially to give it to like a particular set of singers, right?
Right.
In the industry that
Right.
would do what we do, bachata.
Right.
But then at first, when we started looking at them as and reaching out to them and actually getting close to them, uh, we had the opportunity and we told them, listen, um, let's do a song together. I'm a writer and this and that. And they say, and I remember one of them said, just keep working.
Ah,
The time shall come. Just keep doing your thing. At the moment, we didn't understand because, it was too easy probably to just get a song at the beginning and not work and then be like, oh my God, I did a song. Last year, I was able to do the song with that person.
wow.
Last year. And
Wow.
I'm talking about
20 years
he
later.
is 20 years later.
Yeah.
And look, I got goosebumps right now. I don't know
Yeah,
if you can
bro.
see them.
Yeah, yeah, I get it.
But it is the highlight of my career to know that I got the respect because he just didn't do it because, because it was me after 20 years. No, no,
Right.
no. I sent him the song. I made a song specifically for me and him, and he just loved it. And he just said, let's do it. And to me, that was actually, you know, it was a bit of tough love because, at the moment I didn't understand it, but now I appreciate it so much more because I didn't give up, because I didn't give up. I just
Yeah.
continue to work, and and this is, to me, this is the best mentorship there is. To
Wonderful.
be able to do a song with
Let me
him.
ask you this. What do you love about your voice?
What do The fact that is very unique. That is what I love about my voice, because I have tried to find someone that sounds like me, and I still haven't found anybody that does. And to me, that is magical. That
Beautiful.
is magical. Yeah, I wish there was somebody so that I can give him songs or
Well,
something.
what's interesting is that we live in a time where everyone almost sounds the same. It's almost awarded, that people sound the same. Where I think, when I was growing up, for sure, there every voice sounded so different, And
Yes.
so I ask you this, as someone who has grown up in the business, has been in the business for a long time. Um,
Mhm.
do you find now that you listen to singers that they sing differently, meaning that the way they're producing their voices, do they sing differently? And is that a good thing
Yes.
or a bad thing? I see your face, but I want to know what you mean
I
by it.
think, yeah, and the saddest part is that I know so many people in the industry that they try to adapt to the moment. You know, they have such a big talent that if trap music is in, they do it so well,
Mm-hmm.
and they do trap. But then R&B gets back on, and they do R&B so well,
Mm-hmm.
But to me, that is like a little, and they don't just do it with those two genres. They do it with every genre,
Right. Right.
which is great because he's very talented. These people are very talented. However, I find it like that there isn't a lot of how do you say it, originality,
Yes.
and truth to a particular artist, and I think, keeping it real. I mean, you could be as talented as you could, but there should be something that people should be able to point you out and be like, oh, that's that person.
Right. So
Not
let me
that,
ask you this.
not.
If
Mhm.
you when you hear that kind of artist, right? And I think it's a pretty normal trend now where people switch their music because something is hot. If you were to hear that person live, do you think that their voice is the same no matter the genre, or has something changed about their voices?
In these cases, these people are so talented, that they are able to even switch the technique,
Okay. Okay.
and that is a lot of talent. That is too much talent, to be able to do that. And I'm telling you, I know these people. I know many people that they sound the same. They sound the same. They are able to do that,
Right.
But most of the time, those people that aren't as talented, obviously, is gonna affect them big time,
Right.
because they don't have, they don't have like a north. They're just going left, right, because everything is just happening. And
right.
I'm just not a fan of that type of diversity. Yeah, I don't know.
So I always, when I think of singers like that, because you can't pinpoint what it is that they actually do, because they're making songs, that you said, based on what's popular, but not necessarily having a unique identity. I always call that kind of vocal schizophrenia, right? Because
Yes,
their
yes,
voices are all over the place, and we don't know who
yeah,
they are, right?
yes,
We haven't found a definitive that says this is whoever, right? But it's like,
yeah.
oh, well, Beyonce's doing this, and then Usher's doing this, and then Chris Brown is doing this, and I'm gonna switch my music every time to try to match that, right?
Yeah, but their background is not the same as Beyonce's or whoever big artist they trying to admire and follow, trying to do. No, there is a whole team of people behind these big artists, and they do have like a certain direction that they're going with. These artists probably need to make a change, maybe for, I don't know, for business purposes,
Sure.
maybe. And it works. Many times it works because they have like a plan behind it, but you just because going with the flow, I just think that that's just wrong. I'm sorry. That's, to me, it's like you don't have a personality that I can trust. It's like,
Sure.
yeah, that's just me.
What is the greatest lesson you've learned as a singer?
The greatest lesson I've learned as a singer, well, like I mentioned before, is the love of maintaining my instrument. It's something that I realize that if I don't take care of it, is gonna fail at the worst moment that you could possibly, like, as it did happen to me. I went, and I don't care about saying this story, but I did go to one of those shows in which there were many singers. It was similar to La Voz, but it was in Puerto Rico. And I remember that I had to go do an interview with all these kids and sort of like give them advice about the singing. And the night before, I went partying. I went partying and I drank a lot of alcohol. I was devastated. I thought I just had to just go and talk. But then, all these singers, which were great, told me, sing something for me. And I went, okay. After I had just told them, don't drink alcohol, don't do this, don't do that. Then I was like, what was that song that I sang? Ay, dame un poquito, yo iré despacito, poquito, poquito. And I had to keep going up, and I went, poquito, poquito. That's why you don't drink alcohol. That's why you don't do what I do, because it'll, mess you up. So that's something I learned after that experience. I said, I need to
Discipline.
learn. I need to be disciplined. I need to, if this is what I'm going to do, if this is what I'm going to use for my living, if this is how I'm going to, make my money, it's not just this, it's the whole this, you
So,
know.
being a singer it requires a lot of discipline. And do you
Oh yeah,
feel that the sacrifices that you're making are worth it?
absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely, because it came at a time, 2011, for me, for my particular, moment. It came at the perfect time. Meeting you was at the perfect time. I was I already had burned out many phases of my 20s per se.
Mhm.
Like I did all the partying that I could do. I did all the crazy things that I could, that I wanted to do. But then I hit 30, and this is, when I started realizing now all the weight is on my shoulders.
Mhm.
If I'm gonna make, now I need to, take care of my body, take care of myself, take care of my ways, of my in general, in
Yeah.
general. So I made that change in 2011. um I was overweight. I was like 200 pounds. I had 13 years without exercising.
Wow.
you know I was living it up. I was
Yeah.
living life without a north. I didn't have a. I was sad. I was very sad at that around that time. But
Wow.
then something clicked in my head in 2011 when I met you,
Yeah.
that everything started changing, and it all started because life itself had already put me in that position that I needed to change.
Mhm.
So starting with my voice, which was the first step, then I started working out. Then
Mhm.
I lost all the weight. I went down to like 158 pounds, I
I
remember.
remember.
I was
Yeah.
super tiny, and I
Wow.
was doing all the cardio work. And so I just continue to do that. It's gonna be now 9 years that I have never stopped exercising my voice every day, exercising my body every day,
Mhm.
and continue to just have the right choices in food, in life. I have a beautiful wife. um I have a beautiful 2-year old. My 10-year old now
Yeah.
is gonna be 10
Isn't
already.
that
My
crazy?
time fly out. Yeah, in what, in a couple of years I'm gonna have a teenager
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
And and I have two little tiny people that are looking at me as their example.
That's right.
So everything that I do, I'm always thinking about them and thinking that if I show them now when they're young, you know uh they could apply for the rest of their lives.
With your voice,
Yes.
is there something that you wish you could do better?
With my voice, um I guess it all depends on the music that I'm doing, because I've gotten plenty of people telling me you should do, I don't know, like maybe like a Jose song,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and bring it back,
Right.
because that's from back then.
Or Luis Miguel.
uh huh
Or Luis
or like
Miguel.
a Luis Miguel, yes. um I just think, because I'm a producer, also I'm a writer, I have all these other elements. I think, for my music, I know my voice. I know what I need to bring out of it in order for people to like it. I actually record my own voice at home now,
Wonderful. Wonderful.
and I direct my own voice, and it's just working for me. It's just working for me. So that little work setting that I have, it's working for the rest of the world. So changing something about my voice, there's I'm always open, to try new things, applying them into my music. That's just another subject.
I'm going to say a couple of words, and I want you to just give me one word response. S-
Okay.
Support.
My family.
Diaphragm.
Nice to meet you. I never knew it, but
Pushing.
a must.
Vowels.
Vowels. Pronounce them.
Nerves.
Nerves, as in, uh, just relax.
I like that. So, you are at a point in your career, not now, 30 years from now,
Mhm.
and you have made your mark as you have already. But as you grow, you continue to grow. What do you want people to say about you?
Wow, he can write. I don't know. There is something particular about my voice and my writing,
Hmm.
in which, to me, I am very appreciative, of the opportunities life have given me, and how I've been able to learn about my voice and control it, and all these beautiful things that have happened in my life. However, there is something that I appreciate a little more, which is a message, a message in things. And I have found in my writing to be able to write certain songs that actually project that exact message that I want to send out, and maybe touch lives, like I can touch lives probably with my voice, and I love it. But that specific message, and have a person tell me, "Listen, I listened to what you said, and in that song changed my life, and I met my wife, and I made kids with your music, and
Yeah,
blah blah blah." Like all these little details that has to do with my writing. I love it. My voice eventually, is gonna fade away because of
well,
my
hopefully not. Hopefully not.
hopefully
Hopefully
not,
not.
but I'll, I don't
Good
know if I'm
technique
gonna be.
lasts forever, man. Good
No, that I
technique
understand.
lasts forever, forever.
That
Because
that I
until you
know.
don't have breath, that's when the voice no longer is working.
I understand that part. Or maybe I'm going a little further than that, because what I'm trying to say is that probably, my body is not gonna remain for the next 50, 30, 70 years,
Sure.
but my message will, which is, something that I will, that I appreciate. But my voice, trust me, I have learned to love it, because prior to meeting you, I didn't love it. I used it. I
Wow.
used I used to use
Beautiful.
my voice, but I started loving my voice when I learned the techniques that you taught me.
That's beautiful, man.
That's for
That
sure.
means so much to me. Thank you. You know, my statement that I make for singers is love, learn, and then live your voice. And that you just
Yes.
really put that into perspective. I have two more questions for you. Is your throat, when you inhale, when you take a breath in, is your throat round or square?
When I inhale, I think it's round.
Okay.
I think it's round.
Okay.
I never thought of that.
It's
I
a
think it's round. I think it opens up like an O,
beautiful.
or I don't. Yeah, because I don't breathe. I don't do this. I do.
Yeah, keep your tongue in your mouth.
Yeah,
My last
it's,
question for
I
you
think it's a.
is
Mhm.
in an age where everyone is sharing so much, the age of social media, what is the
Mhm.
thing that you've chosen to keep for yourself?
My, it's crazy, because people that know me understand that what I share on social media is not necessarily 100% who I am. For example, I care so much about my families, and I protect my family so much, that I have shared 100 pictures of my son, for example, my 2-year-old, but I have never shown his face. You know, so
Mhm.
that is, I am overprotective of my family, just because they're not part of the industry,
And they didn't
in
choose
which,
to be there.
huh?
And they didn't choose to be there.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes, it's not their choice. I don't force them to get into things that they don't want to. And this particular business that I'm in can be magical, but it could be very dark and cruel.
Mhm.
So, it's I protect people, my people. I protect them a lot. So yeah, there's a lot of things that people don't know about me,
Mhm.
but I choose to do that to just because I want to protect it.
Beautiful. Henry, thank you so much for this interview. You know how much I adore you, how much I love and care for you. And please
Thank
give
you.
my love to your family. And thank you for sharing your information. I think that, you have given so much to so many. And this, even in this time we've been together, that's going to help the next singer be their greatest singer. And that's the journey of Inside the Singer's Voice. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I love you.
Love you too, man. Peace. Thank you.
Bye. So I just leave, right?
Yep.